Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football podcast, brought to you by Upside. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code Touchdown, and you could get 25 cents per gallon or more on cash back on your first tank. That's Get Upside. Guys, it's Super Bowl week. Welcome to the show. As you may or may not have guessed, we are not Matt and Ryan. We're still tweaking out some of the technical difficulties here, but we'll get it eventually. Marcus, how are you feeling going into Super Bowl week? We have got lots of exciting stuff to talk about, but we're going to be doing the review for the Rams and the Bengals. But I feel like we're missing like a little key part of that. But
we got one more game to learn about these guys. I'm fired up though, Kate. Before we jumped on here, you heard me jamming out to some music. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go.
You got some swagger in your step today, Marcus. I gotta hand it to you.
It might have been like the third coffee I've had this morning, so that might have been it, but
it's still not enough. Not enough. Not heading into Super Bowl week. Everybody, like, just have a great time. Tell us what you're eating. I want to know your favorite bets. I want to know literally everything about what you're doing.
Can we start with that? Can we? What does your Super Bowl party look like?
Well, I have to work the Super Bowl, so it's not, and my wife works the Super Bowl, so it's mostly at this point in our lives,
it's a work day.
Working, and we don't really get to have quite as much fun as we once had in our lives, but it's still mandatory. Lots of food.
Okay, I was gonna say
buffalo chicken dip.
Buffalo chicken dip. That's a very East Coast thing, by the way. Like I
is
could
it?
Tell. Yeah, it kind of is. I don't know. I mean, listen, I'd love to know people. Am I wrong? Is that something just East Coasters do? But
well, and listen to this. My apparently it's a thing in Syracuse. They don't call it buffalo chicken dip. They call it chicken wing dip. So imagine
that's what my family calls it. It's chicken wing dip. Yeah.
What? Oh my God. Okay, get out of here. It's it's buff chick dip. And I will hear no different. Marcus, what's your go-to food?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be doing pizza as usual, but
from where? Is it local? Is it
we always do local, and we always do like the massive party pizzas. Like this is where I'm gonna really age myself. Do you remember Pizza Hut, the Bigfoot pizza or Pizza by the Foot or whatever it was called? It was like this really long pizza. That's kind of what we get. It's something like that, but it's not from Pizza Hut.
Like a party sub, but a pizza.
Yeah, it's like kind of like that. But I'm gonna be doing, I'm gonna be smoked queso in my smoker. It's really good. Put like 5 different cheeses in there. Put some bacon, some sausage. Get a little bit of heat in there. It's something different, right?
I don't mind it. I don't think there's any food that you can necessarily go wrong with on Super Bowl Sunday unless
you do like salad or some crap like that. This is not a salad event, right?
Get your vegetables out of here. I want no nutrition. I literally want zero nutrition out of my food for the weekend. But
one more question before we move. What's your drink of choice for the Super Bowl? You're working, so is it going to be coffee? Is it going to be an alcoholic beverage? What are you thinking?
Obviously, you can't go overboard when you're working, or else you're going to get some wacky results on the other end. I'm definitely going to be drinking coffee. I have a latte maker, so I've like kind of bougie a little bit. Not to toot my own horn, but I make a pretty good latte. But I'm sorry, I've got to sprinkle in some watermelon White Claw somewhere in the day. My favorite drink, and you know what? It's not. It might not be classy, but I do think it's delicious, and I probably will have a bottle of champagne in my fridge on reserve just in case the Bengals win, because I want to celebrate my good friends. I want to celebrate my state of Ohio. So, but Marcus, what's your beverage of choice?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be working like you are, so I'm going to go with the cherry Coke. I'm really looking forward to trying to drink a cherry. I haven't had pop in a while, or soda, whatever you guys. I'm an East
I'm
Coaster,
a
so we
pop
call it
person.
pop. Yeah.
Yep.
A nice cold cherry Coke is what I'm looking for. All right, that's enough
Ew.
about
We
the.
learned so much about each other on this
I know.
podcast.
It's all right.
Cherry Coke. I would have never taken you for a cherry
Yeah,
Coke guy.
it's just you need something a little different to make it special. I'm going with the cherry Coke. All right, let's do our previews, Kate. Let's start with the Bengals, who we are rooting for. Most valuable dynasty asset this year. This one's a
I
little
mean,
trickier than maybe you thought.
it is a little bit trickier, but I'm still gonna go with Jamar Chase
Yeah,
here. And I think he's just like the overall guy on this team that does just hold the most value in dynasty leagues right now. Top five wide receiver very easily. You could make the argument for him as wide receiver one.
and I
I don't
will.
think there's
Yep.
too much left to say.
No, I think he's the most valuable receiver in fantasy and dynasty right now. His connection with Joe Burrow is so good. Don't need to add much of there. However, I would say Joe Mixon had a really good year this year, Kate, in a year in which the running back position was just awful, right? Joe Mixon having the season that he did was really impressive. He's not more valuable than Jamar Chase, but I think he deserves to be mentioned.
I don't hate it. Obviously, we know I'm not the biggest Joe Mixon fan. Um, I mean, running back 3 in the season. You gotta be grateful for that. But I do worry, Marcus. I do.
Listen. I could tell it in your voice. You just did not want to even say that.
I didn't. Thank you so much for knowing me as well as you do. Um, like I do think that the thing that we need to keep talking about though is the dynasty value. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, like the touchdowns very much helped Joe Mixon. He finally overcame that lack of touch has been like plaguing him throughout his career. But week 12 on or beyond week 12, never once exceeded 4.1 yards per attempt, was super inefficient to close out the season. Does that worry you at all that like now we're heading into year 6 or we're going to be heading into year 6? He's already tallied up a decent amount of touches from scrimmage.
Yeah.
1,275. That's a lot for any running back. We haven't seen him be like I would consider maybe this is just me. You guys have to tell me. You guys have to check me. Keep me in check. Because I think this is a moment to sell Joe Mixon.
You're probably not wrong. He is going to be 26 this offseason. I kind of want to see what the Bengals do on the offensive line, though. Like, if they go out and spend a bunch of money on their offensive line and improve it, I think there's a chance we see him go from 4.1 yards per carry to 4.5. And if he's getting the same touch total, it could be a big difference. This is probably a good time
I'm not
to
sure
sell
why
him,
we would presume that. He's only had more than 4.1 yards per attempt in a single season in his 5-year career so far. So I think we're getting presumptuous there. If we think,
I think it's possible though, and it seems very likely that the Bengals are just going to invest a lot of resources in their offensive line, right? But maybe you get out ahead of that. Maybe they would not shock me at all, Kate, if they spend big in free agency and they use their first round pick in an offensive lineman. And I think a lot of people are going to assume that as well. So maybe the time to trade him is as soon as the Super Bowl is over, especially if he has a big game.
yeah, I think I am going to be rooting for Joe Mixon here in the Super Bowl. I'm in a postseason league,
I don't
and
believe that.
I'm in first place. I'm in first place in the postseason league. I've got $850 on the line, so I contractually I have to root for Joe Mixon, or else I might be divorced. But so I will be rooting very hard for him. But especially if he has a good game, I'm going to be selling him in Dynasty for sure.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, let's take a quick break so we can tell you guys about Get Upside. Our listeners are earning cash back for every single gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and use promo code Touchdown for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. Cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use promo code Touchdown for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making like $200 to $300 a year just by using Get Upside. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. Also want to tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues the march to the Super Bowl. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live, real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new and amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Kate, most disappointing player for the Bengals this season?
This might actually be this is like disappointment in sort of air quotes here, because I want you to bear with me through my discussion. I want to talk about Tyler Boyd, who I don't think anybody had super high expectations for. He didn't finish abysmally low. Finishes this year's wide receiver 31. He's with the Bengals for 2 more seasons, though. And I think this year with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, we really saw Tyler Boyd just sort of fall back to the wayside. And I think this is probably what we're going to need to expect from here on out, as long as he's under contract with the Bengals. He actually had a pretty good season performance-wise, second highest catch rate of his career, second highest yards per reception of his career. It's just become clear that he's not the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 for this team. And I think that's disappointing for fantasy. For a guy that's just been sort of like a perennial value, I just think he lost some of that this season. And I find that to be pretty disappointing.
I agree. It wasn't like he was bad. He finished the year with 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's just he wasn't consistently giving you games that were going to help you win your league, right? Like, he was fine. He didn't really have any games that were awful. I think he had one game with 7 yards, and that was basically the lowest of the season. But he's just not somebody you feel great about starting anymore, right?
Yeah, and it just comes down to the upside is floor. For what we saw this year from the other 2 wide receivers, I would have expected his floor to be a bit lower, but just not where you want that ceiling to be.
I think in Dynasty, he's somebody that you keep on your bench, and if you have injuries, you can slide him into your wide receiver 3 or your flex spot, and you know that it's probably going to be a lot of games of 5 for 45, and it doesn't get you excited, but hey, it helps you get through a week. It's kind of where we're at with Tyler Boyd right now, right?
Yeah, and I again want to be clear. I think Tyler Boyd is an excellent real life wide receiver, but definitely going to be a disappointment for fantasy this season and moving on.
So we talked about we talked about Joe Mixon as a dynasty sell, maybe, depending on what you think of him going forward. Are there any buys on this team?
Did you tease my dynasty buy, Marcus?
I didn't know that you were going to say T. Higgins. I was looking at Higgins as a potential buy, yes.
Okay. T. Higgins, yes, he's my buy. Wide receiver 22 in the season. Literally just turned 23 years old in January. So he's still a little baby boy in my mind. Yep. It has so much upside, as we saw to close out the season. The first half of the season, we have to remember he missed 3 games because he was dealing with a shoulder injury. But to close out the season, he ranked top 5 in receiving yards per game. Guess who he was ahead of? Jamar Chase. He ranked ahead of Jamar Chase week 12 on, including the playoffs, in terms of yards per game. Their performances really kind of go back to back. And when you consider the fact that T. Higgins actually missed 3 games, I don't think the gap between these 2 wide receivers is nearly as close as it would seem based on their current draft position.
I agree. I'm going to give you some stats. Right now in Dynasty League football, CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 3. T. Higgins is wide receiver 10. Both guys drafted in the same draft class in 2020. They're about the same age. Do you know who has more receiving yards per game between CeeDee Lamb and T. Higgins through 2 years?
Easily T. Higgins, I have to
Hmm.
imagine.
Yes. They have the same amount of touchdowns. T. Higgins has, I'm looking at it right now, he's got about the same amount of receptions. Why is there such a big gap between these two?
Marcus, we're going to need to rename the podcast soon to sell CeeDee Lamb, get
Yeah.
him off your team. Because I feel like we we somehow end up talking about CeeDee Lamb.
It's just because it's so crazy to me that he's that much more valuable than some of these other receivers we're talking about. And even then, Kate, like, I'll give you another one. Who do you think is averaging more receiving yards per game in their career between AJ Brown and T. Higgins?
The fact that you're asking me, I have to say T. Higgins, but
it is T.
shocking.
Higgins. It's T. Higgins. And AJ Brown, through 3 years of his career, has 25 touchdowns, which is great. But he has, some injuries. He's not a huge touchdown scorer. AJ Brown right now in Dynasty League football is wide receiver 4. I'm not sure there's a big difference between T. Higgins and AJ Brown in terms of production going forward. If you could trade AJ Brown for T. Higgins plus something else, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. And I love AJ Brown.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. I mean, T. Higgins, it's kind of funny too, because when I'm thinking of like, what is the difference between T. Higgins and CeeDee Lamb at this point? And I kind of thought, well, like maybe this is just Jamar Chase. Like the presence of Jamar Chase is just sort of forcing down that value for T. Higgins. But I mean, like CeeDee Lamb still has, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz. Like he's got some very capable receiving weapons in his offense as well. So I can't understand the valuation. T. Higgins is the ultimate dynasty buy.
T. Higgins' last 6 games, he averaged 107.5 yards per game.
Whew.
In the playoffs, he had a little bit of a stinker game against the Raiders, but 7 catches for 96 yards against the Titans, 6 catches for 103 yards against the Chiefs. He's just good at the game. I don't know what else to say. He's just good at football. And I think he's a little bit, ranked low at wide receiver 10 right now.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. And if you're not, I need to hear why. Yeah. Slide up in my DMs.
All right, let's move on to the Rams. Most valuable fantasy asset.
Cooper Kupp, get out.
Yeah, it's Cooper Kupp. Now, this one I don't understand. We've been talking about this all year. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 7 right now on Dynasty League football. What makes you believe that he's going to finish anything other than like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 over the next 3 or 4 years?
I don't think you can make that judgment. And it's kind of, I mean, I'm so confused about like the valuation for him. Because he gets forced down here, wide receiver 10 in the most recent batch of Dynasty ADP. Is it his age? Like, because Devontae Adams is ahead of him at wide receiver 6. And Devontae Adams is like, what, 6 months older or so? Like, what's the how big is it the consistency between the two? Because I don't think the gap is that far. But I would easily take Cooper Kupp over guys like Mr. CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
Yes. Yep. Give me Cooper Kupp all day. Cooper Kupp. It's not just this year, like it was a breakout season either. Like over the last 3 seasons, Kate, he's averaging 85 yards a game and he's averaging like 7 receptions. So I'm not great at math, but you're basically locked into 15, 16 PPR points a week. I just don't see with him playing more with Matthew Stafford, developing their chemistry more, how he's going to be anything other than a top 2 or 3 dynasty receiver.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all on the same page. Trade your CeeDee Lambs for the Cooper Kupps. All of them.
All of them. All of them. Do it right now. All right. One more quick break to tell you guys about Built Bar. It's that time of the year where we've basically all given up on our New Year's resolutions, but not this year. We're going to try sticking to them because we have Built Bar. It's almost not really like a resolution because you're going to want to eat Built Bars because they just taste so good. Most Built Bars only contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which typically has like 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar. They have so many great flavors, including mint brownie, coconut almond. And there's a new flavor this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and they're coming out with new flavors all the time. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, most disappointing player for the Rams this season.
I'm going to get a little spicy here. All right. I don't want you to judge me too hard, everybody. But I want to talk a little bit about Cam Akers. Don't come at me. I already feel like I can hear folks yelling at me through their computer because I'm very excited for Cam Akers. I'm very happy with the fact that we've been able to see him return from an injury that not only did he return quickly from, but we didn't know that he would be able to make a return from, period. All of those are incredible things. I didn't really have sky high expectations for Cam Akers, but I do want to bring folks down to earth just a little bit because I think we're not. I think we're getting overly excited about the return itself, and not really looking at the stats. Because I think in week what was this, the wild card round against the Cardinals, he passed the eyeball test by a mile, but I mean the stats not showing up at all on the stat sheet. And he's been getting a very high carry volume. Again, I'm not saying this is necessarily indicative of future performance, but I just want to, I think that this is relatively disappointing compared to where I feel like the general public has slated him after this return. So many touches, Marcus, so many touches, 54 rushing attempts, and he hasn't barely exceeded 150 yards. I mean, that's less than 3 yards per rush attempt here in the postseason, and he's gotten a lot of opportunity.
He has, but that's actually not my biggest disappointment, Kate. It's Darrell Henderson for a couple of different reasons. Henderson had a perfect opportunity to take over this job this year, right?
You mean Darrell made of glass, Henderson?
Well, that's part of it, right? And I was, as you were talking, I was going back and I was looking at where people were valuing Darrell Henderson, like in August, like after the Cam Akers news. And I'm looking at trades right now. Darrell Henderson for Joe Mixon, straight up. Darrell Henderson for Ezekiel Elliott, straight up. Darrell Henderson for Travis Etienne. Darrell Henderson for a first-round pick. Like, people were really excited about the opportunity for Darrell Henderson to take over this backfield and have a fantastic season. And he had 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. And Sony Michel, who the Rams traded a late day 3 pick, outproduced him. And now he's going into the 4th year of his career in 2022. I think Sony Michel will be back. Cam Akers will be back. He's just never going to get an opportunity like this again. So I think Darrell Henderson, he had a chance to work his way into being a high-end RB2, and instead he was a guy by the end of the season wasn't in our lineups at all.
I think that's fair. I absolutely think that's fair from a point of, that expectation. I'm a huge Darrell Henderson fan. I still believe that he could be a dynasty buy at this point because I believe in the player. I believe in the explosion. I do think that we can call him, I hate calling anybody injury prone. He's just had a lot of injuries. But we have seen NFL players come out of that slump. He doesn't have a high touch total on his body. He's a very explosive player. So I'm just going to name him now as my dynasty buy because I do think that he has forced his value very low. And I'm not saying that's not justified, but I think the upside remains there. And even if it's not with the Rams, if he gets maybe an opportunity with another team, we could see pretty good things with him.
I'm a little bit less optimistic than you are. That's all.
Okay.
I don't see it.
I've
right.
always been a Darrell Henderson fan
Yeah.
though, so shake me out of my misery.
I don't know. Running backs, when they go on to their next team after the rookie contract, most of the time they don't have a lot of success unless you have a super high draft pedigree like Leonard Fournette or something like that. I can see Henderson bouncing around the league on 1-year deals and basically being out of the league in the next couple of years. I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm afraid. Anybody else that you're buying from this team?
I don't see. I was buying Odell when he was with the Browns. I don't think we've had enough time to understand what his value is. And maybe that means it's time to buy if there is some confusion in terms of his value. I love Odell Beckham, and I was buying him when he was with the Browns because I still believed in the player. Now, is everybody else catching up to that? I don't know yet.
And is he even going to be back with the Rams this offseason? Like, he's a free agent. He might get more money to go play somewhere else. I'm a little dubious that he's going to be all of a sudden
dubious.
Yeah,
I like it.
a wide receiver too. Somewhere else. Okay, it's been a long time since he's been like a wide receiver too. It's been since 2016 since he's finished as a top 15 receiver. He's almost 30.
You have to give him credit. He's I think for the fact that he came into this team just out of nowhere, middle of the season. He's playing well. I think he's integrated into this offense very flawlessly. I have to imagine they'd want to bring Odell back. And it seems like he's got a very team-focused mentality here. And I think this has just been a really good fit. I still think he is the wide receiver of years past. And, if you're scared about the age, you're scared about the injuries, I think that it's sort of finally appropriately baked into his ADP almost.
I agree.
I think he's definitely a buy.
Currently on Dynasty League football right now, he is wide receiver 41. His teammate, Robert Woods, wide receiver 43. Which one would you rather have going forward?
I'll take Odell.
I'll take Bobby Trees.
I
think he's a better fit in that offense, and it's pretty clear that team loves him. I think if they have to decide this offseason who they would rather have, my guess is it's going to be Woods. So, all right, that is it for today's show. You want to make a Super Bowl prediction before we go, Kate?
I'm just right. I'm rooting for the Bengals, guys. I'm hoping. Huh?
I am as well, but I've got a feeling this is not going to go our way.
You know what? I think if they can keep Joe Burrow upright, there's a chance. I just think this moment doesn't seem like it's forcing these Bengals to falter whatsoever. They seem calm. They seem very meditated. Is that an adjective?
Sure.
I don't even know. But meditative. They just seem like this moment's not too big for them. Obviously, we'll see how it looks when they step on the field, but they seem composed. They seem mature ahead of their years. I think I'm gonna take the Rams money line here, but I still want to have hope in these Cincinnati Bengals.
I'm rooting for the Bengals, but I've already placed bets on alternate lines of like Rams -6.5, Rams -7.
Get out.
I'm
Get out.
worried. I know. We're all Bengals fans this week.
We don't need your negative vibes
energy.
today,
I know.
Marcus.
I know. All right.
Get it off my podcast.
Follow Kate on Twitter at FFBallBlast. You can follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. Check us out on YouTube. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be back here on Monday to break it all down and start some off-season discussion.